That's how we see it. So for the coast, there's going to be some patchy drizzle. That's not going to be an item here. 32 degrees and ice slip. But again, north of the city, that is freezing drizzle, and that's a big deal item. So you're going to have to watch that and take it nice and easy. For tomorrow, better day. Now there'll be scattered showers, timing in the morning, and then the clouds will linger all day long. It's going to be a slate gray day. On the milder side, take that. Temperatures right around 40 degrees. Split should be 38 and 26 for this time of year. 36 degrees in Suffern. Again, on the mild side. This will be the last time I say the word mild for a very long time, because onset of precip with snow will be Thursday midnight into Friday early afternoon, and then Arctic air comes flying in here, and it's going to be punishing. So, a couple of scattered showers early. Cold to Thursday. It looks like Thursday night into Friday midday. We could have still another snow event. It could be a couple of inches right now, and accumulating snow possible. Look at these numbers Friday night, 15. Look at the number on Saturday. Man, turn the thermostat up, 12. And look at the number and spread on Sunday, 24 and 14. Here comes the Polar Express.
Next, are pretty people smarter?
There could be a sort of self-selection for intelligent people wanting to be understanding the importance of being attractive.
And under a rock.
Did you hear the latest? The lawyers for the insane shooter want to change a venue, some place where there's been no media coverage, like Mars.
Weather on PIX is brought to you by Capital One Bank. What's in your wallet?
Oh, man, this is it. The mother of all caves.
What could possibly go wrong diving in caves?
Inspired by true events. On February 4th, James Cameron,
the cave is flooding!
Creator of Titanic and Avatar, takes adventure to new depths.
Keep moving!
Conceived and shot in 3D.
We have to get out of here!
It's a journey.
Never give up.
That will take your breath away. Sanctum, rated R, and Real D and IMAX 3D.
Here they come, yo. Here they come. Here they come.
This or that. This or that. This or that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. I think you can get with this, because this is where it's at. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. You can get with this, or you can get with that. I think you can get with this, because this is where it's at. Where it's at. Where it's at. Where it's at. Come on. Do, da, dippity. Come on.
You'd never wash your dishes in a dirty sink, so why use a dirty dishwasher? Hidden dirt can build up. For flawless results, use Finish dishwasher cleaner to remove grease and limescale. And a cleaner dishwasher means amazing dishes. Finish, the diamond standard.
With Fios, you can start a movie in here, then continue it over here, and finish it up here. Perfect for anyone whose life never pauses. For the first time, you're free to access the movies you buy on demand on all your devices. When you're on a more advanced network, Fios, a network ahead.
In the Jamaica you know and love, nothing really changes. Except, of course, the hearts and souls of those who visit Jamaica. Once you go, you know.
Ooh, a brain teaser. How can Expedia now save me even more on my hotel? Well, hotels know they can't fill every room every day, like this one, and this one, and oops, my bad. So they give Expedia ginormous discounts with these unpublished rates, which means I get an even more rockin' hotel for less. My brain didn't even break a sweat. Where you book matters. Expedia.
Are good-looking people smarter than unattractive people? Doesn't sound very PC, does it? But according to a new study, it's true. It even claims that kids of certain couples inherit genes for both beauty and brains at the same time. I asked Dr. Michelle Copeland, New York cosmetic surgeon and author of a book called Change Your Looks, Change Your Life, if she thinks this is all poppycock.
Well, the quest for beauty is nothing new, and throughout time people have wanted to look as good as they could. So the concept that somebody who's smart is seeking out somebody who's attractive makes sense.
So if you're a caveman or a modern businessman and you're smart enough that you've become successful enough that you have your pick of the women and you pick the most beautiful over the generations, her beauty and your smarts would make your descendants a little bit smarter and a little bit better looking.
Well, that makes sense, that there could be a sort of self-selection for intelligent people wanting to be understanding the importance of being attractive in terms of getting ahead. We know that how you look and how you feel is so intimately related.
So a lot of people, when they first heard this, were like, ah, no way, Kim Kardashian's dumb, or, you know, supermodels are dumb, or whatever. But this study really didn't look at Hollywood stars. It looked at children in Britain over the course of 50 years and children and teenagers in the U.S., tens of thousands of them. So it was conducted in a very scientific manner, right?
Well, certainly they were able to assess the intelligence of a large group of people. The problem is, I think, that in terms of how they determined what was attractive is what's questionable, because in one of the studies they had the teachers selecting or saying who was attractive, and since an intelligent student might be more attractive to the teacher, we're not sure how reliable that assessment was.
Although we have the stereotype, like if you watch Big Bang Theory or whatever, that a person who's really smart, or maybe a person who's a computer genius and is so busy in their lab, maybe they don't bother with their looks. We're not trying to single any computer geniuses out here or anything on the left there. There is sort of a stereotype that really intelligent people are unattractive. So you could say that that could have caused the teachers to have the opposite bias.
Well, you're talking about the extreme, sort of a geek or a genius. This study wasn't looking at geniuses. They were looking at people of average intelligence.
Could it be that whatever quote-unquote good genes are that give you good bones, good skin, good hair, might also just give you better brains, physically better somehow, that would correlate to higher scores on an IQ test? Halle Berry seems very smart.
I don't think that we can make that as a cause and effect with this study. I think the future might be that we will be able to analyze DNA and see if there is a beauty gene or good teeth or good bone structure. But this study doesn't do that.
And they looked at only young people, so it took plastic surgery out of the equation. They even controlled for social class, ethnicity,
right,
and so forth.
It took out our ability to make an impact on how we look over time and what effect that would have.
All right, Dr. Copeland, thank you.
My pleasure.
The law lags behind technology. The law sometimes seems to have stopped developing 100 years ago. And as far as adapting to the new world of media and information, it's dead. To wit, the case of the insane Arizona shooter, whose name or image I will never utter or refer to other than the insane shooter. In the latest development, the issue of a change of venue is being addressed. A judge from San Diego has been assigned, since all Arizona judges have recused themselves from the case. After all, one of their own was killed by this character. Note, there's no allegedly here. He did it. But think for a moment as to the claim that must necessarily be made by the shooter's lawyers, namely that the amount and tenor of pretrial publicity will make it unlikely that a fair trial is possible in Arizona, and certainly not Tucson. On what planet do you think a jury could be impaneled who hasn't heard anything about the case, or who's heard less about the case than in Tucson? 50 years ago, maybe the argument could be made that since local press coverage could and would very likely contaminate and prejudice a jury, you could find in the next county over a jury who's heard nothing and could be impartial. Well, that was the law then. Now, with 24/7 everything, internet, Twitter, Facebook, blogs, online, you name it, the law hasn't budged from the days of Ozzie and Harriet. Do you think that the mainstream 24/7 cable media, you know, the meat grinder media that spews and oozes and sprays news diarrheically, if that's a word, do you think they ever could consider their coverage might form the basis for a defense motion, not to change venue, but to have the charges dismissed because no one anywhere could possibly claim they haven't made their mind up as to the guilt, or better yet, I could see the prosecution not be able to get a guilty verdict but instead an NGRI, not guilty by reason of insanity, because of the 24/7 media monkeys through their incessant coverage of the insane mind of the insane shooter. Now think of it. Instead of the media prejudicing the defendant, it prejudices the prosecution. Comment as you see fit.
You could call it news ooze.
I like that.
Even though anyone can get information about a given crime, couldn't it be that people who live in that area are more emotionally connected and may just be less detached and less objective if they're on a jury?
You know, I have tremendous faith in the jury system no matter where, but interestingly enough, this actually plays and inures to the benefit of the defendant because I think they're more prone now to find them crazy because of the coverage.
The law of unintended consequences.
And whenever you say something that makes no sense, just say, G taught me that. The weekend.
No, he's doing more of an
El Niño.
We'll be right back. Next, Lolita's lineup.
When the Jets are making the headlines, the Giants are, and they're not even in the playoffs. What safety Antrell Roll had to say about Coach Tom Coughlin? Whoo! Plus, we've got some Yankees and Mets moves.
Temperature of 26 degrees and an incline to match. You're climbing ice and snow you could barely walk on. The Jeep Grand Cherokee. It increases torque just when you need it most. Now, who could wait to test drive that?
Now lease the 2011 Jeep Liberty Sport 4x4 for $249 a month for well-qualified returning Chrysler lessees.
My sister's new boyfriend told her that he thinks Sundays are just for watching football. Believe that?
Remain calm. Answering incorrectly has... But I just... consequences. But you're smart, right? You ordered off McDonald's dollar menu at breakfast, got the premium roast coffee, the savory sausage burrito, everything so good and just $1 each. You made it happen, so you got this.
He's a jerk.
Well played. McDonald's dollar menu at breakfast, the simple joy of being smart.
The killer is here now. Was it the butler?
Coughing can really be disruptive. Delsum helps silence coughs for a full 12 hours, all day or all night. Up to twice as long as other cough liquids.
Take her away.
Delsum. Silence is relief.
40 years! And we haven't changed a bit. Think I should change my hair this year? Still got the best legs in the business.
Oui, oui, mon chéri. Let's show them what we've got.
For 40 years, you've been the steal of ShopRite's famous Can sale.
Everywhere throughout the store, there's Can savings and much more. Values that you should can trust. Our 40th Can is a must.
Celebrate the savings. Purex 2X Ultra Liquid Detergent $1.99 and Lysol Disinfectant Spray $2.99.
ShopRite's 40th Can sale is a blast.
Stock up while the buyers last.
I think when you're on air, you should be very accessible to people. Very accessible and very appreciative because they are the people that have all the choices in the world, including making you disappear.
The Hellcats are moving to Tuesdays starting January 25th, catching flight on a brand new night. Hellcats.
New night, Tuesday, January 25th on the WPIX 11.
Turns out, Toyota is the #1 retail brand in America. So no matter what the competition may be saying, when it comes to voting with their money, more customers choose Toyota.